Hey everybody, this is Slash, Hydropump, Mitchell, whatever you want to call me. This is my 2011, almost 10 years ago, 2011 September format, Infernity deck profile, uh, otherwise known as Tengu Plants format. And this is going to be like an in-depth deck profile of me explaining my card choices with Infernity. Um, Obviously, Infernity isn't the most prevalent deck back then with Tengu plans and agents, but it's a deck I recently got back in the retro formats, and this is the first deck I got made for Tengu plans format because I just happen to have all the cards for it pretty much. So I just want to make a deck profile explaining everything. I've been playing this format for a couple months, and I just want to show what I had for this deck list, and hope you guys all enjoy. And if you have any questions or anything you want to say in the comments, just let me know and I'll happily respond. So we're just going to jump right into it. First of all, we're just going to go with 3 Infernity Archfiend, obviously a pretty staple card in the deck. It's a big beater, searcher, it does pretty much everything you need. And then 3 Infernity Necromancer. I really like this card a lot because it kind of you get to kind of control the way the game goes because you just kind of sit on Necromancer and defense, continuously revive Archfiends or whatever you need, and it's just it happens to be like the plague of Thunder King Ryo because he only has 19 attack and you just set Necromancer and then they run into it and then the game kind of stalls out from there for the whoever's playing Thunder King. But something kind of unconventional, we are just going with one tuner, which is Infernity Avenger. Usually, like, I see lists from back in the day, they play like multiple tuners, like 2 Avenger or a Plague Spreader and like Infernity Beetles, and I feel like all that's just kind of unnecessary because, first of all, like, all the tuners are pretty terrible to draw, so you don't want to be drawing like handfuls of monsters. First of all, you don't want to draw too many monsters with this deck. But on top of that, like, the tuners don't really do anything for you. Like, Archie and Necromancer, they do like quite a bit for you in hand, like the summoning them and all that. But like, just like having tuners without Archie or Necromancer doesn't really get you anywhere. So yeah, only one Avenger, and I guess you can make an argument like, well, what happens if your tuners get banished with like a Caius or something? It doesn't really come up. And if anything, like if this gets banished, you can kind of make your way to get back to the tuner by like overlaying these 2 for Leviair. So there's a way to get back to the tuner if it happens to get banished, but like you just kind of like you can probably just change your game plan based on that. So yeah, if you're just kind of carelessly like throwing an Avenger out there to get Caius or BLS, DD Crow, then you just have to like kind of like not do that. So yeah, 1 Avenger, and then we play 2 Mirage. I feel like 2 is kind of the perfect number because you definitely don't want to see this like all the time at 3, but you kind of want to see this card a good amount of time, so 1's not enough. So 2 is kind of like the perfect number for Mirage. And for the Warriors, we're playing 1 Greffer and 1 Armageddon Knight. I feel like this is the perfect ratio because you also play Reinforcement of the Army, so you can kind of fetch whatever one you need. There's instances where you need Armageddon Knight, and then sometimes where you need Greffer. So like, I was originally playing with 2 Greffer, and I was like, man, I really need an Armageddon Knight, or like, where it's like you just draw Greffer and it does nothing. You just summon it, so you have no cards in hand. Whereas like Armageddon Knight, you summon it, and then it gets a card in the monster in the grave for you, and then you can go from there. So like, they're both pretty good, and having Rhoda to search either one of them is like a really good option. And for my last monster, I play 1 Stallion Street Patrol. People ask me in the past, like, why do you want to play one of those? This card is so good. It is a good card, but you don't really need to focus your deck around it because it's only really good if you have Archfiend in hand, which you don't have a way to search Archfiend at this point in 2011. And you don't have a Laval chain, so you don't have a way to get this in the grave like automatically, despite overlaying 2 level 4 monsters, because Exceeds just came out. So the only real way to get this in the grave is through these 2 or Foolish Burial, which I only play 1 of each of all those cards. So I'd rather not focus on just trying to dump this in the grave. It's kind of like the rule with Avenger. Like, you don't want to see like Stallions and Tuners because they don't really do anything for you in hand. Like all these other monsters, they do something for you in hand or when they're summoned, other than like Avenger or Stallion. So like that's not like a card you really want to draw too much. So only one, and I never really wish I had more than one, to be honest. This is a pretty good ratio there. So I'm really happy with the monster lineup. It's 12 monsters, which is kind of late, but I have some reason for that. Alrighty, so on to the spells. We have the one Launcher, the one Reborn, the one for one, Rhoda, and Foolish. All the one of spells. These three right here are kind of like, if you just draw them in your opening hand, you probably just win the game most likely. Rhoda is just to get to your warriors for options, and then Foolish, you just Foolish anything pretty much. So these cards are all like really good in your deck. Unfortunately, you can't play multiple. Like yeah, you can't really play like other cards that mimic these, because like these are the only cards that like are like that impactful. Where like this deck isn't really made to like go off first turn, despite like people think like Infernity's like this deck that like goes off first turn, kind of like the 2014 version, but like the 2011 version like isn't really capable of going off unless you draw one of these cards probably, or some combination of these. It's more set up to where you set up turn one, and then turn two you kind of like go off and win. So that's why like I only play these cards, and I don't really play like something like Monster Gate or Tour Guide, so you can get a Archfiend, because one, like you kind of play into Maxi or other hand traps pretty hard when you're trying to go more combo base outside of these cards probably, and I always enjoyed having a way to stop through Maxi. So Maxi isn't like too great against this deck, because you just pretty much go like Necromancer, Archie. If they max you just search Barrier. Then you just kind of like they don't really plus out you, and then you get a Barrier on top of it. So yeah, Maxi isn't too great against this deck. I mean, hand traps in general aren't like, the way I'm playing it. I don't feel like hand traps are like super impactful against me. So yeah, that's all the one-off spells. I don't really feel like I need to explain what they do very much, but yeah, they're just like all really good. Card I will explain though is 3-Pot of Duality, and I guess to go along with it is 3 Upstart Goblin. These are my consistency cards. Like, I want my deck to be as consistent as possible. 37 cards. It's just really great because I get to like more cards. Like, I have a chance to get to these power cards like way more often through Upstart and like Duality. And Upstart, you like life points don't really ever come up, because like you just end up building like a massive board and winning anyways. That's kind of how you win. So Upstart, like life points don't really matter. And Duality, it's an interesting card because Thunder King's so prevalent in this format. It was like with Archfiend and Duality, just you kind of get stuck sometimes. So it's like, why are you playing 3 of this card when Thunder King hurts you so much? It's just that this card's so good. So I have ways to out Thunder King, but like this card is like, it goes along with like the setup turn 1 and then combo turn 2. Like if you get like a key piece to your combo for the next following turn with Duality, then it's like it's really worth it, rather than just like trying to like constantly draw into whatever you need. You get to like see 3 cards in your deck and then go from there. So this card's just great. Really enjoy Pod Duality and Upstart Goblin. So that's it for the spells. That's only 11 spells. On to the traps. We play 3 Infernity Barrier. This is probably like one of my favorite trap cards of all time. It's really what makes this deck able to just like play like a grind and control style, because you just go Necromancer, get Archfiend, search Barrier. You don't really care for hand traps, and then you just kind of go from there. So I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, you just get like an Omni Negate for free, and you play 3 of it. So yeah, great card. And then we play 1 Break. You need to play it alongside the 3 Barrier, because there is times where it's like your opponent may have a big monster to deal with, and you can only get like this setup. So you need to protect your board with Break, and then have like barriers on top of that as well. So it's like a good like secondary card to get. Oddly enough, there is some times where it's like, man, I wish I I don't really wish I played a second break because it would be kind of like inconsistent. But like there's times where it's like I go through these and then like a break and potentially like more. But like usually if you get to that point, you probably win the game anyways. But it's like kind of funny. It's like I could maybe use like a second break or something in theory, but I don't really feel like it's necessary. And a card that's not really too liked by most people in the, I guess, community or people that played Infernity is Infernity Inferno. A lot of people think this card's like really bad. Um, they'd rather play like just ways to get stuff in the grave through Armageddon Knight and Greffer. I'll explain why I play Inferno. Inferno, pretty much, again, you're trying to set up turn 1 and then go off turn 2. So Inferno, like, you're not doing anything with these guys turn 1, really, like, and they waste your normal summon. But with Inferno, you set it, you draw for turn, you activate this, dump whatever you need to the grave, and then you just pretty much go from there, combo off with whatever you have. People just don't like it because it's a trap card, and it kind of does the same thing what these do, but it's kind of different in a sense because like with these guys like Greffer and Armageddon Knight is like you just have to like you have to summon them or summon you have to summon Greffer and then like dump something, and if you happen to draw a monster while you have like a Necromancer in hand, like if you draw a Mirage while you already have a Necromancer in hand and Greffer gets ran over or something, you're just kind of stuck with these two cards. With Inferno, you kind of get to wait till what you draw for turn, and you get to discard. So if I, you know, if I have something like this in hand, it's like, okay, I get to Inferno these to the grave, and then send Archfiend and, another Archfiend, and then summon Mirage, and then go from there. So it kind of empties your hands and forms it the way you want it to be, rather than just being like, oh, I drew another monster, I'm kind of stuck. So that's kind of like, that's the awkward thing with Armageddon Knight and Greffer playing multiples. And then if you're not playing this, you also have to play a lot of monsters to fuel these. Like with Greffer, like if you're playing more monsters, you have to fuel that with Greffer, or fuel Greffer with more monsters. With Inferno, you get to discard like pretty much anything. So if you have like dead dualities in hand, if you draw 2 Infernos, you get to just dump them because like it's just another card. You get to dump any cards. Where these, you're like strictly stuck to monsters. So you have to discard a monster and summon this, and they also waste your normal summon. So again, I only play one Street Patrol. I'm focusing on Inferno, so like I don't really need a special summon with Street Patrol just to like unload my hand. If you're playing like multiple of these, you might want to play like a second Street Patrol because like you have to waste your normal summon on this and then dump something like an Archfiend from hand and then special summon Mirage from your hand through Street Patrol. And one more thing is that you have to with Inferno, like say with Greffer, you dump Archfiend and you dump Avenger. Okay, well you still kind of need to get the Necromancer. With Inferno, like you can have Avenger in hand and another card. You dump this and Duality, and you get all 3 pieces. Where these two you usually only get 2 pieces, and you can't really fully like make a giant board or anything. You kind of like make a partial board. So that's just kind of like how I feel about Inferno, and it also counts as an Infernity card for break, so it comes up more often than you think. So yeah, that's my reasoning for playing Inferno. On to the rest of the traps. Play 2 Call the Haunted. You're pretty much just dumping everything to the grave with Greffers, Armageddon Knight, Inferno. So it's just another reborn card. So like a lot of times you can summon Mirage. It gets Solemn Warning. Okay, Call the Haunted. Special someone else. So yeah, that's another way to get something out of the grave, because you kind of like trick your opponent. You're like, okay, I'm full committing to this normal summon or something like that, and if your opponent's like just kind of like negated somehow, and then you just call the Haunted. So it's kind of a good card there. I think it doesn't really come up often, but you can activate it on your opponent's turn with the Archfiend if you want to. Something kind of interesting. 2-dimensional prison. I was recently playing Bottom's Trap Hole over these, but I kind of ran into a situation through testing where it's like, again, like I said, you're playing against like a lot of Thunder Kings with like Tengu plants and stun decks, so And if you're drawing hands like this where you can't search for like with arching or duality, it's kind of hard to win, especially if you open it like bottomless with that, because Thunder King's already on the field. So I feel like the Dimensional Prison usually does the same thing as bottomless, because first of all, anything you can deprison or bottomless, like BLS or Hyperion, or they're just gonna call priority anyways, most likely. So it doesn't really do anything there because you still lose out on a card. But Dimensional Prison, like it can out Thunder King or whatever is gonna beat over your monsters. Like, it can even out a TG Werewolf as like bottoms can't. So I feel like it's a little bit more flexible in a sense, whereas like you get to protect your monsters, which is what bottoms is for. But it's also a good going second card, because then you can deprison that Thunder King that's attacking you, and then you get to clear the Thunder King, and then go with your game plan. So I feel like deprison is kind of better than bottomless this format, and in this deck particular. And on top of that, I obviously play the one Mirror Force. Mirror Force is at 1 in this format, so kind of a staple card, I feel, for this deck anyways. And something kind of unconventional as well is I play 2 Starlight Road. I feel first of all, when I started testing with this deck, I was like using Trap Stun, which I didn't. I quickly realized it wasn't really that great, because like you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna Trap Stun turn 2, and then go off and win. First of all, like there's not a lot of traps in the format, and so like Trap Stun isn't that effective. And then second of all, I was getting tired of getting blown out by Heavy Storm. Like you would have Psalms or barriers, but a lot of time what happens is like the opponent would like kind of bait out your barriers. Like you would have a face up arching on the field, and they book a moon or enemy control your arching to defense mode, and then that makes barrier dead, and then they Heavy Storm you. So I feel like always having Starlight Road is like this really good. Obviously 3-week too much, but I feel like even playing 1 Starlight Road, I feel like I was just like getting blown out by Heavy Storm too often still. And it also protects you from Dark Hole, Torrential Tribute, Mirror Force. So like with this deck, you're committing like everything onto the field. So like you need a good way to protect your field, because like if you get hit with one of those blowout cards, you're not in a great position, because you obviously don't have a hand to play with. So yeah, I feel like Starlight Road is just a great card. And also like people like they bait out your like barrier, and they think they're clear, and then you hit them with this when they like Black Rose or something like that. So yeah, Starlight Rose is a great card, and I enjoy that too in this deck. And then obviously we play the 2 Warnings and Solemn Judgment to wrap up the traps. These cards are pretty staple at the time in like any trap deck, so stopping any summon is pretty good. And it's, I mean, obviously better than bottomless trap hole, because you're stopping the summon. Bottomless, they can still call priority and go off from there. So yeah, that is 17 traps, so it's quite a bit of traps. And now we are going to go over the extra deck. So we obviously have the 1 Army Arm as our level 4, Stag Insurgent as a level 5, and Catastrophe as a level 5. So level 4 with Avenger and Necromancer just to like get a body. I remember one time when I was just kind of stuck with Avenger and Necromancer, and I was just kind of trying to clear my hand. I just like made Army Arm just to like get over like to start beating down, and actually like kind of went ham, because like my opponent also didn't really have anything. And then Stagans, it's like another level 5 option that this deck has. You can actually I never really do this, but like it's an option where you can do Army Arm on Stagan, and then you can just like it turns into like a BLS pretty much, where it's at 3200, and then you beat over something, you burn with Army Arm, and then he gains 800, so he's 4k beater, and then he gets attack again. So that's kind of cool. And then Catasters, it's like generic level 5, that's pretty good. Kills Hyperions, BLS, whatever you need to get rid of, and it's kind of a good threat. And then Brionic is kind of like maybe unconventional, but there's a combo that you can do with Brionic that's pretty crazy in this deck, that I can show off later. And then like there's a couple of instances where I could have like this. I just kind of make Brionic just to clear some monster zones, so it's good there too. Onto the level 8s, we have 300 Eyes Dragon. You could technically run 2, but I ran into a few situations where I quickly realized I need a third one. So, and you have a little bit of room in this extra deck, so I feel like you can get away with 3. And we play the one Infernity Doom Dragon. He's pretty good. He's essentially just a big level 8 Infernity monster that can sit in attack mode with barriers. Like, your opponent's probably not gonna get over this. And then he gets to also pop like a monster your opponent controls and burns them. So you can kind of play through Gores with this, where you just attack with everything. Your opponent drops Gores, and then you can summon this and pop Gores. So that's kind of cool. And then we also play Stardust. I only play one Stardust. You can make an argument where it's like, I play 2 Starlight Roads, I should play a second Stardust in case I make Stardust, and then I want to use Starlight Road later. But first of all, it's if I already have Stardust on the field, I'm probably winning, and it's not like I'm gonna need Starlight Road if I already went Stardust, because I'm probably already made all this stuff. So yeah, I don't really see it coming up that often, and resolving 2 Starlight Roads and making a Stardust isn't. I mean, it hasn't come up yet, so I don't think it will. One Scrap Dragon, generic, good. It's really good in the late game with this deck and just clearing something random on the opponent's field. And obviously we play Trishula as our level 9. Just a great card. There is a Infernity build where if I were playing Infernity Beetles, there's technically a loop where you can do this summon this 3 times, even though it's at 1 this format. And but I feel like that was kind of overkill, and then the combo doesn't even come up that much. So obviously Trish is just a staple, but using Beetle, Beetle doesn't really, it's kind of win more in a sense, because you get by with just Avenger, and then you just don't really draw on dead Beetles or unnecessary cards that you don't need to play. So that's why. And I will go through the XYZ. So you play Levier. You got 2 Necromancers you can do to make this, and so sometimes you banish stuff through break, or your opponent DD Crow something, or along those lines. Usually it's a Archfiend that they banish, so you can do I remember one time I played through all my opponent's hand traps where they used Maxi the turn before, and then they Veilered me, and then DD Crowed me, and then I just overlaid the 2 Necromancers into Levier, and they had nothing. I just went on to win that turn anyways. There is some decks at the time, there was I actually saw someone playing Tour Guide recently in their Infernity deck. I was like, why are you playing that? Because obviously the rank 3 pool isn't insane. You only have Leviathan, Dragon, and Levier, which I mean it's okay, but then you're also forcing yourself to banish stuff to this fuel Levier, which I didn't really feel was a good game plan. And it also plays into Maxi pretty hard, because you go Tour Guide, Necromancer, just getting Necromancer in the grave doesn't really do anything. But then you you have to make a Exceed most likely to get any value out of the play. So yeah, I wasn't really a fan of it. And really, I feel like it's a staple, but really undervalued card is Wind of Zen Meister. This card is really good, because sometimes you get a field where it's okay, you got Dark Grepher and you get Necromancer, and then especially on Archfiend, you search Barrier, you pass your turn, you can't really do anything else. Okay, what happens next turn? You obviously you can't really do anything if you draw a spell or trap, because you can't dump for Grepher. Okay, it's okay, what do I do? You can overlay these 2 for Wind Up Zen Meister, Book of Moon itself, or Necromancer, whatever you want to book, detaching the Archie, and then it gives you a Infernity monster to summon off Necromancer if you have nothing else in grave. So Zen Meister is really good just for detaching and getting your stuff in the grave, whereas Utopia and Roach cannot do that. This is the only rank 4 Exceed, whereas you can just at will just detach something, where you have to battle and detach with Utopia, or you have to do Roach negate something to get something in the grave. So this one's pretty good, kind of a first turn or second turn play if you're in a stalemate kind of situation. and obviously Utopia's good at blocking battle, and Roach you can make it sometimes against like agents or something that, or you read like a BLS play or stop synchro plays or whatever. You can make it with two, like you can make it with Greph or Archfiends or whatever. So it's a good card to have. The only card I might play in the extra deck is Mistworm, just to have another level 9. It usually if you're making Mistworm you probably already won, but it's just a good way to like you have a big board and it just clears the opponent's field just to get the game over with. But like Brionic can like even if you're not playing like the Beetle like loop thing with Trishula, make it 3 times. There's another loop where it's like you can still loop Mirage and stuff with Brionic, and you end up with a bigger field than you would if you're not playing Brionic. So obviously it doesn't come up very often, but neither does Mistform, so I just figured I would play Brionic instead for the crazy combo. 1, because it's cool, and 2, it does make your field slightly better. Alrighty, so we are going to go over the side deck real quick. It's kind of like a smoke screen side deck that I took from Patrick Hoban's, book from when he top 32 YCS in 2013 with Infernity. Obviously, the format's way different. Infernity functions way different because it has like Laval Chain. Laval Chain just came out. But anyways, pretty much you play 3 Infernity Randomizer, 3 Offering of the Doom, 3 MST, D Prison, and 2 Reinforced Truth. This is like kind of like the package you put in, and then you're putting in like all these cards that like 1-for-1 with your opponent's cards, and you side out like all your combo cards. You pretty much do this going second, because like what your opponent's gonna do, they're gonna see you're playing Infernity, and they're gonna side in like Macrocosmos, Defissures, hand traps, like insane amount of hand traps, especially now how people play nowadays, whereas it's like you play on turn 1 and that's about it. So like people playing retro formats nowadays probably use way too many hand traps then. And then like it's Tango Plans format, and most people are playing like one Veiler and then like 3 Maxi, so like you don't really want to like go second having to play into like a Thunder King and then Maxis on top of that and stuff. It makes it really, really difficult. So like you're siding like all these 1-for-1 cards with Randomizer. Like if you don't know what Randomizer does, like the stats don't matter, but like it's just a random warrior, and you have no cards in hand, you draw a card, and if it's a monster, you burn your opponent times the level. So if you draw a Necromancer, your opponent takes 600. And no, it doesn't trigger Archfiend if you draw it, because Archfiend misses timing, because it does the burn damage. And if you draw a spell or trap, you take 500, which most likely, I mean, you're going to draw a spell or trap because you play like no monsters in this deck pretty much. So yeah, you're just always drawing. You're drawing like the same amount of cards. And Offering of Doom, it's just a free card to pop your opponent's monster. And so you pop your opponent's monster, it's a quick play spell, but you skip your next draw phase, which doesn't really matter if you have Randomizer online. And so it kind of lets you control the game, where it's like you're just popping everything your opponent summons and all that. And then you play 3 MST, kind of similar to the Offering of Doom. Obviously, just good at clearing back row and pesky cards, but like it kind of goes with this, where you're just burning your cards, and then like you're just drawing cards on top of that. So you're 1-for-1 with your opponent, but then you're drawing a card off this. So as long as you protect this, like these cards are really good. And you also get in a situation where like you kind of have to play these cards, because if your opponent's kind of like reading the situation, they'll just like not do anything and just wait till you like have too many spells or traps to where like this is dead, and then they'll like try to make a push then, because like you're kind of stuck with too many cards and you can't use barriers with cards in hand and stuff like that. So these cards are really good because you just like use them whenever you want pretty much. And then we play One-Dimensional Prison, so it's the third one, just to clear pesky monsters like TGEs or Thunder Kings. Like Thunder King's really bad against this deck. Like when I put this package in, because you have Offering the Doom, Deep Prisons, so many ways to clear Thunder King. I'm not really doing a ton of searching with Archfiends or anything like that, so like Thunder King's like really good against this deck when you have the combo in, but like when you're playing against this kind of package, it's kind of a bad card. And you know, Tengu Plant decks, they play like a lot of cards that are similar to Thunder King because they're like good in the mirror match, supposedly. So like Doom Cows, and you know, just it kind of turns into a beatdown with the Tengu mirror. So this package is really good against that kind of strategy. So yeah, that is what I play with all those cards. So I think it's like let me check here. Oh yeah, and we also play 2 Reinforced Truth. Reinforced Truth, pretty much like it's a trap card that lets you special summon a randomizer. So you don't have to like normal summon this every turn. You get to like special summon it from the deck and then get your engine going that way. So with the 3 randomizer, the 2 Reinforced Truth, and then the Rhoda, you have 6 ways to get the Infernity randomizer pretty much. Which is, I was originally playing 3 Reinforced Truth in the side deck, but it's like I was playing like Reinforced Truths and like other cards that kind of like do this, but you'll be siding like 15 cards, and I don't really have 15 cards I want to take out of the main deck, so I had to make a couple changes. And then like there'll be times where like the 3rd Reinforced Truth is dead because I went through all of my randomizers, and it kind of turns into a situation where you're clogging all your back row, and you kind of get stuck that way, so you have to be kind of careful. So yeah, that is 12 cards that you're going to be siding in, and these are the 12 cards you're going to be siding out. So you're going to side out the Infernos, because obviously you're not going for combo to dump everything in the grave. Siding out the Call of Haunted, because you don't want to, you know, run into DD Crow and then like Call of Haunted is sitting there dead in your spell and trap zone, so that's kind of bad. Foolish Burial, 1 for 1, Double Mirage, Street Patrol, Armageddon Knight, and Greffer. So yeah, you sign out like 5 monsters and then a couple of the combo spells, but everything else you're leaving it. So it's an interesting concept that Hoban had, but I really enjoyed it for this format. There's only a couple awkward situations where it's like, okay, you're playing like all these 1-for-1 cards like Offering to the Doom and, you know, Deep Prison. I feel like this strategy probably worked a little bit better in like against Fire Fist, and which is what you sided against. But pretty much like if your opponent has like a Tengu or a tour guide in play, like those cards are kind of hard to like 1-for-1. You pretty much have to do like a 2-for-1. Unless you have like Solemn Warning. Those are pretty good cards to use Solemn Warning on, but yeah, that's the only awkward situation is like Tengu and tour guide into Sangan. But other than that, I feel like that package is really good. And pretty much I don't have anything else to, you know, really I want to side. I just like doing that package going second, because I usually win game 1s and then I decide that package and go in second. So like game 2 or game 3, if I go to it by chance, I want to have a way to like win going first outside of, like the main deck, because obviously your opponent's gonna have hand traps out the wazoo. So I decided to go with 3 goes in match. 1 is kind of good against plants because they can't really combo off against you. It kind of like stops them. And then so it's a good card against plants going first. I originally tried siding this with like this package, but then you got in an awkward situation where it's like you're trying to like burn these cards onto your opponent's monsters, but they can't summon anything because you're preventing them. So they're kind of, it's a really slow game state, so you can't really burn your cards on them, and then you kind of get stuck again. So you kind of have to be careful what goes in match if you happen to be doing that, but I don't really plan on doing that anymore. But this is good going first because like it gives you a leg up, and then you get the combo, and then like all your extra deck monsters and main deck monsters are dark that you want to summon pretty much. Like these are all darks, dark. Most of your extra decks dark, so don't really get hurt too bad from Gozu match. And it's also 6 Samurai is kind of annoying matchup too, surprisingly. So like because they kind of just like make Chien and sit on it, or Nat Beast and Barkion. So like Gozu match, like if you get this up first, then it's kind of hurts them a good amount. And I guess I don't really have anything directly for agents, which is also a good deck, but I feel like my agent matchup's a little easier than the tour guide Tengu Plants yeah, Tengu Plants deck. But if I feel like I guess I could do like side light mirrors or something instead if it goes to match if I feel it's necessary to. But yeah, that is the deck, the main deck, extra deck, and everything. I'm just gonna do some mention some cards I'm not playing that you might be questioning. So obviously I'm not main decking like any spell or trap hate. So you're like, why does your opponent have skill drain? I guess you're just kind of stuck with that. Like skill drain decks are kind of rogue. I guess maybe you got TG stun, you got heroes that all play skill drain. So the only real out to skill drain game one is like barrier if you have that set up, or Infernity break, solemn judgment. So you have a couple outs, but like not like after the fact. You can't like MST skill drain or something like that. So that's kind of like one bad thing. But obviously I am not playing Heavy Storm. Heavy Storm I'll just talk about. I didn't really like it when I was testing with it. It's just kind of like awkward because one, I'm playing 17 traps, so it's like outside turn one, I didn't really feel like this is really good. And then when I'm siding this going second package, it's again only really good going turn one, like because you kind of get to a game state where you have randomizer and like a bunch of back row, and it's like, oh, I drew Heavy Storm. I don't really want to activate it because I'm kind of controlling the game. Everything's on the field. If a Heavy Storm is probably gonna hurt me more. So like, this is only a good. It's kind of like Trap Dust Shoot in a sense, where it's like usually only good going first, or like first, or it's the first turn. I'm trying to say. So I didn't really like it, and most decks don't play too many Sparrow Traps to begin with. I like trap cards. Like no one's setting 5 usually, unless it's like a stun deck. And if it's a stun deck, they're playing like Dark Bribes, multiple Starlight Roads, so you don't really want to play into that either. So I just didn't really like Heavy Storm in this deck. Kind of similar thing with Dark Hole. Dark Hole is probably a little bit better than Heavy Storm because I'm not playing like a same amount of monsters, but I also don't want to like break my own board, and I have like trap cards to deal with my opponent's monsters like Deep Prisons and stuff, so I don't really feel like Dark Hole is as good because like with the trap like defensive stuff, like you kind of like you get to progress your game and stuff. Still like Necromancer, Archfiend, build up my field. Whereas Dark Hole is like I have to clear my field, and again I'm committing everything to the field. I don't have anything in hand, so Dark Hole I feel like would be kind of bad as well. And kind of similar situation with Torrential Tribute is a trap card, so it's a little reactive. But I just don't want to blow up my like Necromancer Archfiend setup, and I lose everything as well. So yeah, these cards like they're all great blowout cards, but usually your opponent's not committing everything to the field, and you kind of just like this deck kind of like dwindles all your opponent's resources down. That's how most games go if you're not like comboing. So yeah, I don't really feel like these cards are that great anyways, because one, people don't play into it very much, and two, it probably hurts me more than the opponent. And obviously I'm not playing Bottom's Trap Hole like I mentioned. This is not very good going second, and priorities of things, so people can just call priority on whoever they're summoning, and this has got like an irrelevant card at that point. But yeah, that is pretty much the deck profile for Infernities. I can briefly go over a combo. Briefly, I mean the super long combo. This is kind of like the very situational combo that I said that can happen, probably won't happen because one, you probably have to go first to do it, and two, your opponent probably doesn't have to have it. You probably can't really have a hand trap. But like if you have the Easter Grave and you have Mirage on field, you can usually get to this if you open like really broken like 1-for-1 or Reborn Foolish, several things that you can get all these in the grave with turn 1 by chance. It's not like a primary focus of my deck, but it can happen. So pretty much you tribute Mirage, you get Necromancer Avenger, and then you get the Necromancer effect. You get Archfiend, and thus to say I did a Necromancer effect, I'll just put it in the attack mode. You synchro those three to your Hunter-Eyes Dragon, Hunter-Eyes effect, banish Mirage, tribute Hunter-Eyes to get Necromancer Avenger, and then Necromancer get Archfiend. Okay, you get your second Necromancer, and then you do launcher effect, discard Necromancer. You synchro those two, Avenger and Archfiend, into Catastor. Then you do launch. I already used this, so I'll put that in attack. You launch for Avenger and Necromancer. And you go Necromancer effect, get Archfiend. And now Archfiend will search Infernity Archfiend. If you were playing Beetle, you would search Beetle at this point. But obviously I don't play Beetle. Alrighty. So here, you are going to sync Avenger and Catastor into your Bryonic. And then you're going to overlay your two Necromancers into your Leviair. Leviair effect, get Mirage back from the banish. And then, now what? You're going to do Bryonic effect, discard your Archfiend to bounce your Archfiend, discard your Archfiend to bounce your Leviair back to the extra deck. So that puts Necromancer in the grave. Now you do Mirage. You get Necromancer, and then Necromancer 1 effect. You get Avenger, and then the other one you get Archfiend. So let's go to attack. This is where you search your first barrier. So yeah, you get barrier here. You synchro for your second Hunter-Eyes Dragon. And you banish Mirage again. And yeah, you get... Actually, I don't think you have to get Avenger here. Yeah, you don't. So you get Necromancer and Archfiend. And you're going to get the first Archfiend effect. Get the barrier. And now you're going to use Necromancer again. And get Archfiend. And now you get your random Infernity card here. So you can discard. Alrighty. So you overlay here. For your Leviair, you get Detach. Bring my Mirage. Discard this. Get Archfiend. Discard Archfiend. Bounce Archfiend. And bounce Archfiend to bounce your Leviair. This goes to grave. You do Mirage again. You get Necromancer, and you do Necromancer effect. Get Avenger, and then you do the other one to get your Archfiend. And you search your third Infernity barrier. You synchro those into your last Hunter-Eyes Dragon, and use Hunter-Eyes to banish Mirage. You know, get these cards out, and you can get Archfiend effect to get Infernity Break. And you can actually, I think you can go here to, well, you actually do a couple things. You can like go here, make a level 8 with, by Necromancer getting a Avenger, make a level 8, and kind of sit on that. Or you can do something else where you actually don't get, you actually go with, yeah, you have to get Archfiend there, but you can get like another random Infernity card, and then you go like Leviair again to get Mirage, and get, you discard Inferno, bounce Archfiend, and yeah, and then you discard, you can just discard that and then bounce this or whatever, and then you tribute Mirage to, you know, get this field where you get, then you get break again. and then you can get level 8. So then you're not clogging your field, and you kind of have this, and you can go into like a Doom Dragon or whatever. So you end up with like 3 barriers and break, and you get to make a level 8 synchro. So you end up with this field. It's really a long combo, but you end up with this kind of unbreakable field. And if you're not playing Brio, I'll show you like kind of like the lesser extent of that combo real quick. But pretty much like if Daigusto Emerald was out, which I think it was out in Japan at this time, or OCG, you can actually loop. You can make the Daigusto Emerald and like put your Hunter Eyes back in the extra deck, and then you get to trust your opponent's hand, and then have like bears on top of that. So interesting. So again, we're at these 3, and if you're not playing Bryonic, then you kind of like we're just gonna go with like the standard thing where you just get all that. You get launcher. You just do the same thing, make Hunter Eyes. You pretty much just end up with like a slightly smaller board, so it's not like a massive deal, but it can. I mean, it's just playing Bryonic is cool, and then it gets you like a bigger combo. So you get this, you make a level 8, you can make like another Hunter Eyes Dragon, then you launch, and you get this, you get another barrier, and then you just make any level 8, you can make Stardust, you can make Doom Dragon, make Scrap Dragon, say Doom Dragon just for the heck of it, and then you do a Hunter Eyes effect, banish Necromancer this time to get Archene, and then you have like another barrier or a break. So like it's a slightly smaller field. With Brio you get the extra trap, and then you kind of have like you have better monsters with like Levier and Brio, so you have better follow up, and then you have an extra trap, which is pretty good. But yeah, you're probably gonna win in all the situations anyways. But anyways, that is my Infernity deck profile and in-depth explaining of everything, and a small combo there for everyone to check out. But yeah, pretty much with that combo, it doesn't come up very often at all. So like that's why I kind of felt like Infernity Beetle was kind of like overkill, because you're kind of playing Beetle to get to that combo, but then you don't. I mean, the combo doesn't come up very much, so Beetle's kind of like dead most situations. So yeah, Beetle's kind of overkill in a sense. So, but even if you have Beetle in the deck, you trish your opponent for 3, and then you only end up with like 1 or 2 Infernity barriers, I believe. So it's like it kind of equals out to with the field I had, where it's like I have like really good monsters and then like 3 barrier and a break. So it's kind of like the same thing in a sense. So I feel like Beetles is kind of like completely pointless to play. But anyways, yeah, that is my Infernity deck profile. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Again, if you have anything you want to say in the comments, just let me know. Or questions or anything cool you want to say, any ideas you had, I'm happy to talk about it. But yeah, I want to do more deck profiles in the future, potentially more Infernity or other decks as well for different formats. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next one.